On December 10th, 2004, investigative journalist Gary Webb was found shot in his apartment.
No, you lying.
No.
When?
Saturday.
Oh, man.
The internet was set ablaze with conspiracies of a CIA assassination plot, but overwhelming evidence of a suicide soon put the theories to rest.
Well, he used to tell me that he would come home at night and there'd be guys, you know, climbing up the pole late at night, 12 and 1 o'clock, and you know, at nighttime, and people following him around everywhere he goes. He has cars telling him, and his phone was tapped, and he was just saying that they were kind of like giving him the blues. You know, a lot of things were going on that he didn't really like. And he said it was the government, too.
By the way, the head of the DEA, his name is Rob Bonner, is a friend of mine throughout the first George Bush administration, documented that yes, the CIA was involved with importation of a fair amount of cocaine with regard to the Iran-Contra, etc. But it just has to happen because of the money.
We understand what you're saying. A ton of cocaine was smuggled into the United States of America.
Well,
in cooperation with the CIA?
That's exactly what appears to have happened.
When I was a clandestine case officer, I thought I was doing God's work, the nation's work, by recruiting traitors in varied countries around the world. And what I didn't realize was that I was literally there for show. I was just going through the motions because the traders weren't producing really useful information. We were ignoring all of the openly available information that would have produced much richer results. Let's jump over to General Manuel Noriega in Panama. General Noriega was told by Bill Casey, then director of the Central Intelligence Agency, that he could have a free run with drugs into America, provided that he allowed us to support the Contras from Panama. That was a straight-up deal.
Now, I don't understand why the government didn't use Freeway Rick the way they used him. Set him up to go buy it from the big man and bust the big man. They know he ain't the big man. Somebody's bringing it to him.
Yeah, nobody's
So why they didn't reverse it?
They always take you almost
to make it seem like he's the man.
They never
but somebody's just bringing it to him.
Who is the real drug lord?
What do you say to the conspiracy theorists? Like, I don't know if you're familiar with the book called Dark Alliance, written about the CIA bringing in cocaine into South Central LA, the whole Ricky Ross story.
Well, you know, I've been working with the CIA for years. I take great pride in what they do. They're very disciplined people of great courage. There aren't many of them. It's a very small agency. They're out there in the global context trying to protect the American people. So I think they deserve to be treated with respect. But the notion that they're smuggling drugs into America is just absurd.
I think Ricky Ross simply didn't invest enough money in bribing local authorities. Had he invested in a protection insurance policy at the state and local level through legal fronts, I mean, there are all kinds of lawyers that are willing to sell their souls and happy to take their money and then channel it into bribes. So basically, I think Ricky Ross didn't realize that he could become a pawn in the war on drugs.
Are you aware of whether or not narcotics proceeds at some time may or may not have supported Contra efforts?
Yes, sir. Narcotics proceeds were used to shore up the Contra effort.
Okay. Did you personally play a role in some of the transfer of that money?
Yes, I did.
6 months after CIA Director John Deutsch came to Locke High School, the residents of Watts were hardly surprised that the CIA found itself innocent of all drug-dealing charges. Today, Ricky Ross remains in prison as the sole perpetrator of America's biggest drug war scandal.
And this was an off-the-books operation. It was an operation that was specifically forbidden by the U.S. Congress, and drugs were used, together with Saudi Arabian contributions, also off the books. Drugs were used by the CIA to carry out a covert action that had been forbidden by Congress.
When Bush Sr. lost the election to Bill Clinton, everyone felt as if a new day were born in America. Now the peaceful liberals would rule, and the tired, corrupt Iran-Contra Reagan crew would be gone for good. Nick and Norm were brought to us by the Office of National Drug Control Policy, also known as the Office of the Drug Czar. Under Bill Clinton, the office was headed up by four-star General Drug Czar Barry McCaffrey.
Clinton had a drug czar by the name of Barry McCaffrey. And what he did, he was the evil one. Now, Clinton was the good one. Everybody loved Clinton. He played the sax, and, you know, he said he didn't inhale, and, you know, he got the BJ from the broad and everything. And everybody, he was
black baby.
Yeah, Clinton was the man.
We want help. We want help.
Less than a mile away from T's place, former President Clinton made an appearance to promote his new book. So many adoring fans showed up that Clinton was not able to sign everyone's copy.
Problems today with President Clinton's book signing tour through the Southland. He appeared at SO1 Books in Baldwin Village.
I'm all the way from Moreno Valley just to see President Clinton. I love him and I love what he stands for.
But in actuality, he had this evil, crazy, maniacal person that headed up the war on drugs. Now that's the good guy getting the bad guy to do the bad work.
Yeah,
Scapegoat.
It's scapegoat. That's
what
what we was talking about earlier. The scapegoat. Like, we're the scapegoat. They all got to have an scapegoat.
Back in Austin, General Barry McCaffrey was making an appearance at a fundraising event. The former drug czar was now a regular war correspondent on MSNBC, but he would never knowingly participate in some independent film with a questionable message. Maybe by accident, I told the General Secretary that I was working on an anti-drug video, which is kind of true. So I donned my Republican disguise, consisting of a golf shirt, name tag, and slacks. Carefully choosing the correct forks and nibbling on some asparagus, I waited for the perfect moment to approach the well-protected former drug czar.
Mostly known as a drug czar, and if I talk to the media or talk to the American people, that's the only way they'd recognize what I was doing.
In the early 90s, my friends were all quitting the 80s hard drugs and switching to high-quality marijuana. A guy I knew always had pounds of hydroponic, the kind of pot you see on the cover of High Times magazine. It wasn't long until the law caught up with him and he was sent to a prison work camp. Mambo died a few years later. Turns out that this was becoming a rather common story because during McCaffrey's reign under Bill Clinton, literally millions of nonviolent pot smokers were arrested and sentenced. And even if you still don't recognize Barry, everyone remembers Barry's classic "This is your egg brain on drugs" anti-drug campaign.
Metaphor of the drug war led to flawed thinking.
I was invited a few years ago when General McCaffrey was the drug czar to be involved in a debate. He bragged with a smile on his face that the budget for his office, namely the Office of National Drug Control Policy, was getting an increase in funding from $17 billion per year to something like $18.5 billion per year. Can you imagine how much money that is?
You go to children and you say, do you remember your mom, dad, coach, teacher saying marijuana is unacceptable? If I remember hearing that, I'm not using drugs. You know, we have actually done a terrific job in the United States reducing drug abuse. It's down from 14% of the population past month to 7%.
And if you expect somebody that controls that much money to be in favor of change, look again. Of course not, because money is power.
Our problem isn't that we use too many drugs. Our problem is we've got too much money.
Most people today cannot even tell you the name of our current drug czar who works under the Bush administration.
We want to expand drug treatment courts that find people who are in trouble with the law because of their addiction and give them an opportunity to not just to pay their debt to society, but to get clean and sober.
Our viewpoint and our funding was to enhance prevention and education.
On all of the drug czars since McCaffrey, or since Bill Bennett, who was the first one under these circumstances, they all do the same thing, they all talk the same way, they all give lip service to drug treatment, but when it comes down to it and the rubber meets the road, the only money that is spent is for incarceration.
The reason why we don't hear about the drug czar, and by the way, the drug czar is the son of General Vernon Walters, who was a great CIA hand during Iran-Contra, a great CIA player. John Walters is his name. We don't hear about it now because the drug business is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The drug money is flowing, people are going to jail, the money's going through Wall Street, people are happy, it's not out of control, and everybody's looking the other way. And that's exactly the way they need it to be, because they cannot sustain not only the U.S. economy, but they cannot sustain the U.S. empire, the American empire, without those drug flows.
Everybody is out to grab money. Everybody is trying to make money off the drug war on the good side. And of course, unbespoken on the bad side, the people that use drugs and sell drugs, they're trying to make money.
The ruling class here in America had to come up with something so that they could control certain segments of society so that they could stay in power. So they created the drug war for the felonization of Americans.
So the drug war has actually established a false capitalist economy there that's driven by the money you throw at it. The more money you throw at it, the wilder it gets.
Back in the 70s, Joe Pietri was a large-scale marijuana and hashish smuggler working in Nepal. When Nixon started the drug war, he gave over $50 million to the government of Nepal to outlaw marijuana and hashish. Joe witnessed firsthand how a once peaceful Nepal quickly transformed into a society of heroin addicts controlled by a violent black market.
I was in the marijuana and hashish business for 25 years. I spent 25 years of my life living in Southeast and Southwest Asia, where I saw the CIA, through their political agendas, allow the production of opium poppies and heroin production in Southwest and Southeast Asia that eventually reached these shores.
Why do you think heroin use has gone up so much?
Well, I don't think heroin use has gone up.
Heroin is increasing. I just stopped. You guys going to keep quiet, or I have to go do this?
Back on the streets of LA, dealers use little balloons to sell small amounts of heroin. Sergeant Daigle points out balloons on the street that gets cleaned every few days. When I looked up, I realized I was standing on literally thousands of empty balloons as far as I could see.
You can look on the ground and you can see water, little pure water that's given out. They're all little balloons. You'll see them all over there. They're as common as the cigarette butts. That's all heroin balloons.
My wife and I had hired a young woman to help around the house. Soon I started finding burnt, bent spoons hidden in strange places. Jonna played in a punk band, and as I learned back in the 80s, music and drugs go hand in hand.
Well, you know, you just think like, oh, Iggy Pop, Kurt Cobain, you know, they use heroin, maybe I'll be able to write better songs, you know, I mean, especially like, I think people who are into art and shit, there's more of a draw towards drugs just because you want to experience different states of your mind, you know. I mean, right now it's easiest for me to get heroin is walking into a gas station and buying a pack of cigarettes, you know.
The amount of heroin reaching U.S. shores seems to come in cycles, but nothing in past history can compare to the influx experienced in the wake of the new war on terror.
It's very important for the American taxpayer to understand that Afghanistan was producing virtually no heroin under the Taliban and is now responsible for 80% of the heroin coming to the United States and the Western countries.
Now, we invaded Afghanistan right after 9/11, secured the country in November. Just by coincidence, the planting season for the opium poppy is November, and you harvest in late May and early June.
Former DEA agent Celerino Castillo served in the DEA, where he helped to eradicate vast poppy fields.
When the Taliban was in Afghanistan, they were what they were, but they were definitely against opium crops cultivation, and a lot of it was destroyed.
We secured the country just in time to release a whole bunch of opium warlords from prison. It was in the news.
Well, drug money could soon be funding Al-Qaeda and other terror groups.
These beautiful-looking flowers are fueling some ugly addiction and terrorism.
When you've taught everybody how to make money with hard drugs, what are they supposed to do? Stop?
Police don't bother them. The U.S. military has other priorities.
So within this past year that the U.S. government has control of Afghanistan, why is there a major crop of heroin? that's going to be coming into the U.S. or has come into the U.S.
We see a lot of people from Northern California, a lot of